All righty. More phone calls coming up. Louis Riddick for the Mothership, ESPN college football, NFL analyst, and former front office executive with the Eagles and Washington. All right. Instant replay came into our world on this day in 1986. Has instant replay been good for sports or bad?
Look, I think it's been both, and I know that sounds like a little bit of a cop-out, right? I think you want to maintain as much of the human element of the game as possible. You don't want to slow it down too much. You don't want to have it be a constant barrage of replays. But you know what? When there are game-changing plays, plays that can really substantially affect the outcome, and you know that they are blatantly missed, I think that's when replay, when it gets it right in those kind of situations, I think that's good for the game, because I think ultimately that's what we all want. We want the right teams to win by abiding by the rules, and the teams to be punished that don't abide by the rules. So you're never, Dan, I don't think you're ever going to have like 100% consensus of whether or not replay is good for the game or not. Because as soon as there's too many replays, people start complaining about the fact that it's slowing down the game. And you know what? Just let the refs ref. And then as soon as the refs miss a call, it's like, which league do the refs suck more? Is it the NBA or is it the NFL? Is it the script? Are these games rigged? Is Roger Goodell trying to protect Patrick Mahomes? Blah, 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 blah. No one's ever happy. That's kind of like the world we live in right now.
Yeah, I was always bothered. It came in as instant replay. Then they changed it to replay because it wasn't instant. So that was one of my big problems. Yeah. All right, you worked in two front offices. You worked with the Eagles in Washington. I'm going to put you in the Steelers front office.
Yeah.
You decide who's going to be your quarterback between Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. I would look, I would go with Aaron, because I said all along, I believe the organization needs him. He needs this kind of organization, I think, at this point in his career. What's my rationale for that? Why do they need him? Pittsburgh needs to level up somehow, some way at quarterback. They just do. They have been stuck in this kind of like mid-range, mid-tier mode of operating at that position, and figured as though Mike Tomlin could coach his way around it. The defense could create enough turnovers to get around it. They could run the ball well enough to get around it. They could play renegade enough to where they would create some kind of magic in the stadium, and that would be enough. And it's not enough. They've got to level up somehow, and that's either through the veteran market or the draft. Where they're drafting right now, is it possible for them to still get someone late in the first round that could wind up helping them at the position? Yeah, I believe that there is. But when we're just talking about free agency, Aaron levels up for them. He just does, with his knowledge, which I still think he has left in the gas tank as far as his ability to play the game, and how he could help this offense, in particular the passing game, become more dynamic. He will need to abide by a much more rigid structure in Pittsburgh, and think that he can come in there and bring in all of his buddies, and pick his offensive coordinator and call the plays that he wants all the time, and like basically run the show. He's not running the show, and he doesn't really need to at this point. And I wouldn't entrust him to do that anyway. And Mike's not going to let him do that, and Arthur Smith's not going to let him do that. So I think he needs to just focus on playing ball, coming back the second year off of this Achilles, and actually going out the way he wants to go out, and have people look at him the way he wants people to look at him. And Pittsburgh needs to level up. So yeah, I think it's a good combination on the surface. Now, we don't know how Mike feels about that. We don't know how Arthur Smith feels about that. We don't know how DK Metcalf and George Pickens are going to react to Aaron Rodgers getting in their rear end about not doing things the right way. There's a lot of things that still would have to be worked out. But that's the same thing is true with every free agent transaction. There's always going to be things to work out.
But then does Russ, in the game of musical chairs, end up with the Giants?
Probably. He probably does. And you know what? I think both of these guys at this point in time in their career are bridge players. It's just a matter of whether or not that's a one-year bridge or a multiple-year bridge. In Pittsburgh, it could be a multiple-year bridge for Aaron, because they're not really in position to get what we would term as a surefire long-term solution, given where they're drafting. So he could be possibly going into a situation there where he could extend this thing to 2, maybe 3 years if he wanted to play that long. If you're in New York, you know for sure Russell Wilson that being Russell Wilson knows for sure that as soon as he walks in there, he's already on the clock. They're already thinking about what the next option is. And it may be this year, who knows? But they may think, hey, you know what? We'll sit pat. We'll play with Russ for a year. We'll draft Travis Hunter. Maybe we'll move down. Who knows? Maybe we'll accumulate some more picks and continue to try and build out this roster, which is, you know what? I'll tell you what. I know it sounds like I'm going to be ranting here a little bit, but that's probably one of the most annoying things for me to hear at this time of year all the time is let's trade down and get more picks and build up the roster and then just plug in the quarterback. Like you just pick one off of my grandma's cherry tree and plug him in there. But that may be what they're thinking. I don't know. If I'm Joe Shane right now, though, and I'm Brian Daboll, I'm thinking I need to win some games, man, and I need to win them this year. So that's what makes this time of year so fun, to see how these teams ultimately wind up constructing the roster, who they get, and then how it pans out. In New York, there's going to be no team you talk about more next year than the Giants. That's for sure.
And we have a bet on the show. Will there be more running backs than quarterbacks taken in the first round?
I heard you guys talking about that.
All right.
That's a good one.
What do you think?
I think it will be running backs. Months ago, a GM who I respect a ton said, look, this is the best year I've seen for running back since I've been a general manager. And he's been a general manager for a little bit now. And he's someone who really does do a good job of evaluating that position in particular. And I agree. I've seen a bunch of these guys in person this year. And when you start watching the tape, you have guys who are big, strong, powerful dudes. And you've got some guys who are kind of like Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't want to say scatback type dudes, but guys who are real electric in terms of their ability to stop, start, and go 70, 80 on you. And even the big dudes can do that. I mean, you look at Omarion Hampton, you start thinking Joe Mixon. I mean, I'm sitting there watching him and I'm going, damn, is that Joe Mixon in a North Carolina uniform? And then you look at Ashton and I'm telling you, people think I'm crazy. I'm going, that's Emmitt Smith with better speed. That's what that is. I watched Brashard Smith from SMU. I'm sitting there going, if that ain't Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't know who is. There's all kinds, man. There's all kinds. And if you need a back this year, I mean, you may not take him in the top 10, top 15, although I think Ashton deserves to go that high. I think you will see this will be a heavy year for backs going in the first round, top of the second for sure. And once that run starts, there are going to be people just picking them off for sure.
Louis Riddick, part of ESPN's ongoing NFL free agent coverage. You can catch him with Adam Schefter and more today on ESPN from 3 until 5. You're sold on Cam Ward going as the number one quarterback. Are you sold that Shedeur Sanders is a first-round quarterback?
Yes, I am.
Top 15 type quarterback?
He's a top half of the first-round player. He's a top half.
But where is this negativity coming from? And I like it's on the field and then a little bit off the field with how he interviewed with one coach at the combine. It feels like it was a smear campaign because once it happened, then all of a sudden it's boom. Everybody kind of jumped on this. Why?
Of course. Look, they've been trying to – people have been at this game, so to speak, of trying to talk certain prospects down for years. Dion is a lightning rod. That's where it starts. It doesn't even start with Shedeur. This starts with his father, and then it just trickles down to him. And it starts with his father. It's been that way since I played with Dion back in 1992 in Atlanta. People don't like flashy guys like that who can back it up. They just don't. They don't like people who are strong, confident. It's funny. Like, we love it, but then with some people, we don't love it. With Dion, he's always been a polarizing player to the people who don't know him. If you know him personally, you would be like, I get it, and I love it. Give me more of it. With Shedeur, he has some of his father in him. There's no question. How could he not?
No.
He's the man. I mean, he's the man's son. And so a lot of it comes from who he is and what his last name is. Now, as far as him individually, why do they pick at him on the field? Does he have Cam Ward's arm? No. Do you need Cam Ward's arm? Do you need John Elway's arm? Do you need Josh Allen's arm in order to play high-level winning football in the NFL? No. But at this time of year, we always fall back to those baseline levels in terms of like evaluating quarterbacks and saying, well, if you don't have a rocket arm, you can't play. If you don't run 4-4 like Lamar and can create outside of structure and throw the ball and switch it to your left hand like Patrick Mahomes, you can't play. You're either a Hall of Famer or you suck. And that's what it always comes down to at this time of year with quarterbacks. There is no in between. And quite honestly, I think that discussion stems from the fact that I don't know if people really ever know what the hell they really think about quarterbacks. because it's such a dependent position and it's so hard to get your arms around it. Shador is very smart. He can process like hell. He's a good leader. He's got good feet in the pocket. He throws a great ball. He has a lot of anticipation, and he's tough as hell. He got the crap beat out of him at Colorado.
Yeah.
I was at games and calling games where I'm sitting there looking at Dion, who is like pleading with his son, throw the ball away. Or pleading with offensive coordinator, run the ball. My son's getting murdered out here. He'll be fine. He'll be just fine.
Daniel Jones just signed with the Colts.
Yeah.
Is he going in thinking he gets to compete for that job?
There's no question. I mean, why else would you switch teams at this point? Considering what you have in Minnesota in terms of the weapons that they have, the coaching staff, and I'm not taking anything away from Shane Steichen because a lot of respect for Shane. Daniel Jones is looking for an opportunity to really compete, to play. And you're not going to tell me otherwise that the people in Indianapolis didn't tell him that you are going to have a chance to compete. We want somebody to push Anthony. And if you beat him out, you beat him out. Simple as that.
Yeah.
That isn't happening in Minnesota. They are trying to get JJ ready to play this year. They're not going to force it, but they're trying to get him ready to play. The way he looked last offseason and the way he looked in the first preseason game against the Raiders told you this kid's developmental arc is going to go straight up. There's a reason why they drafted him 10th overall. It reminds me a little bit of the way Kansas City was trying to bring along Patrick when they had Alex Smith there. The only thing that derailed things is that he got hurt, is that JJ got hurt. Daniel knows that. He was there every day. He knows how they feel about him. He knows he doesn't really have a chance to start there. If JJ's knee's fine, it's over. That's why he went to Indy. And if I'm Anthony Richardson right now, what I'm really interested to see is how he responds, Dan, to this. How does he respond? It's going to be, I hate it for the kid. It's going to be so hard for him to ever shake the stigma that's going to follow him, the story that's going to follow him because of that one decision he made down there in Houston.
How many years did you play defensive back?
7.
Okay. Give me the number of quarterbacks that actually made you nervous. I don't want to say scared.
Oh. You can say scared. Yeah, they made me nervous as heck. Yeah.
Who scared you when you go, oh, my God, we're playing him?
John Elway. Because he had TD with him. Had Rod Smith, had Shannon Sharp. The offensive line had Tom Nalen, Mark Schlereth, Dan Neal, Tony Jones. And that play-action passing game was just so ridiculously good. That was the year that TD went for 2,000. And it was just like, as a safety, I was like, I know I got to get up here and support this run because when this guy starts going downhill, it's over. And these linemen start getting up on you, it's over. And I did that one time early in a game, and Elway pulled that thing out of there and launched it. And I'm telling you, in mid-play, I can tell you can already guess the words that were coming out of my mouth.
Oh,
yeah, all of them. F words, everything. The only thing that saved me, honestly, was Charles Woodson was the corner, and he broke the play up. And I remember jogging back to the huddle, and I was just like, and he was like, hey, but yeah, Elway, Marino, I got to play against Danny when he was when he had Mark Duper and Mark Clayton and Keith Jackson and those guys down in Miami. He came out first play of the game. He comes out and he was standing there at the line and he looks at me and he winked and I went, what does that mean? Does that mean I found my guy? Or does that mean, hail to Pitt? What does that mean, man? But yeah, those dudes were Steve. Oh, you know what? It would be disrespectful for me to dismiss Steve Young. Steve, when they were in San Francisco, I played against them when I was in Atlanta and when I was in Cleveland. They had it rolling at that time, Dan. I mean, they had it rolling. Steve was so mobile and so fast. And Brent Jones was so crafty. And they had Jerry and they had John Taylor and Ricky Waters. And it was just it was like, come on, this isn't fair. It's not fair. So, yeah, I got to play against some great ones, man. I mean, so much respect for those guys where you literally were like, I can't make a mistake. I can't. And even if you were perfect, sometimes it just didn't matter.
Always great to spend time. I know it's a busy time for you, but thanks for carving out
Of
a
course.
few minutes, buddy.
Always, man. Thanks.